in the late 1980s. One company, one console, and one hell of a ride. Let's take a look at the TurboGrafx-16.
What's up everybody, RetroGamerGenX back with another look at video. And in today's look at, we're going to be checking out the TurboGrafx-16. We'll be taking a look at the history of the TurboGrafx-16, what's inside of it, basically what makes it tick. We're going to be doing a 360 tour with a special guest, Moby from the T-HUD Popcast, doing a 360 tour for us today. And then we'll be doing some gameplay, just showing some games on the system and everything. And then at the end, I give my conclusion, just showing, how the system was back in the day, my thoughts, my opinions, that kind of thing. Also, in between each segment, I put commercials just showing how the console was marketed back in the day as well. Also, as a bonus feature, at the end, I'm going to go ahead and pop in a promotional video that was distributed on VHS for the TurboGrafx-16 back in the 90s. I just wanted to thank all my viewers and all my subscribers and everybody that's helped support the channel over the past year and a half. It's just been a great ride, just sharing all this retro goodness with everybody out there on YouTube. If you like the content, go ahead and hit a like. If you like it that much, go ahead and subscribe to me and then hit that notification bell. That way you get notifications every time I drop new content like this. If you want to help support the channel, go ahead and click on that super thanks down below. And if you do that, I'll go ahead and roll you in the credits in the next video coming up. Alright guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the TurboGrafx-16.
First, there was Atari. Then, there was Nintendo.
Now, the next generation video games, TurboGrafx-16 and TurboGrafx-CD for live video games and 2,000 times more memory. Turbo Express Portable, Turbo Chip compatibility, basic system $99.99. TurboGrafx-16, the next generation now.
The story of the NEC, PC Engine, and TurboGrafx-16 starts in the early 1980s. NEC, also known as Nippon Electronic Company, a communications company at the time, started getting into the home personal computing market. They developed a computer called the PC-88. By 1981, the PC-88 held 40% of Japan's personal computing market, and just like any other personal computer of the time, video games were a major portion of its market share. In 1982, Nintendo contacted NEC to help develop games for their upcoming Famicom system. The first few games developed for the Famicom were developed on the PC-88 because Nintendo hadn't completed their development kit yet. By working with Nintendo, NEC got the itch to get into the gaming market. They worked with a third-party developer, Hudson Soft, to acquire a license to port some of the Nintendo games over to the PC-88, including Excitebike, Balloon Fight, Tennis, Golf, and Ice Climber. They even created 3 new Nintendo games just for the system: Super Mario Bros. Special, Punch Ball Mario Bros., and Donkey Kong 3. NEC really wanted to get into the gaming market at this time, but were afraid because of the video game crash and seeing other game companies fail. They watched the Famicom in Japan and the NES around the world become a huge success for Nintendo. They also saw Sega starting to have success as well, and they knew it was time to get into the market. By this time, NEC had released a PC-98, which was a 16-bit microcomputer and eventually evolved into a 32-bit machine. This gave NEC an advantage as they were already working within the 16-bit realm. By 1986, Hudson and NEC partnered up to start development of a new video game system. Earlier, Hudson had contacted Nintendo to try and sell them the advanced chipset for their next video game console, but Nintendo declined, so Hudson found a new partner in NEC. Hudson had developed an 8-bit CPU that essentially was the same as the 65 CO2 processor. They coupled this processor with 2 16-bit graphic processors, the first one being the video display controller and the second being the video color encoder. Development of the console was quick due to most of the hardware already being completed. NEC already had software support from Hudson, but also brought in other third-party developers such as Namco and Konami to develop games for the system. They released the PC Engine on October 30th, 1987 in Japan. It instantly became a hit, selling more than 500,000 units in the first week, taking the lead in the Japanese gaming market. The system had good quality games from great third-party developers, a small but elegant design, and had a small compact credit card-sized game cartridge called a HuCard. With the success that NEC was having with the PC Engine, most would think that this would be the end of the story. However, it was just the beginning. NEC decided that they were going to do two things in 1988. One, they would expand the market to North America, and two, they would create a new CD-ROM add-on for the PC Engine. Development of the North American PC Engine started. However, it was found that Americans like things big and not small, so they decided to make the console bigger. Also, the name PC Engine was not very popular with the polls taken in America, so they decided to name the new system the TurboGrafx-16, based off its 16-bit video chip architecture. But development of the system was a slow process and delayed the release in North America. Meanwhile, in Japan, development of the CD-ROM was moving along quickly, and by December of 1988, it was released. This made the PC Engine the very first video game console to use the CD-ROM media format. They sold over 60,000 units in the first 5 months, and by the end of the third fiscal quarter of 1989, sold more than 80,000 CD-ROM units, and 1.2 million PC Engine consoles. By mid-1989, development of the North American TurboGrafx-16 had been completed, and the consoles were beginning to be produced. It launched in August of 1989 in limited quantities in the Los Angeles and New York test markets. Unfortunately for NEC, this was 2 weeks after Sega launched the Genesis in America with the arcade hit Altered Beast packed in. Unlike NEC, Sega didn't waste time redesigning the console for the American market and launched it as quickly as they could with a great pack-in game, while NEC wasted almost 2 years for the Americanized console to be developed and packed in the game Keith Courage in Alpha Zones, which really nobody in North America was familiar with. The TurboGrafx-16 add-on released shortly after, but was priced at $399 by itself and no pack-in games. Because of all this, unlike the Japanese market, Sega dominated NEC in North America. Making matters worse, in NEC's contract, Hudson got paid for each console that was produced, sold or not, and they made 750,000 units in the stagnant North American market, costing NEC millions. Now, over in Japan, things were a lot different. In fact, sales of the PC Engine were skyrocketing, and they launched 3 new models of the PC Engine in 1989. The first called the PC Engine Core Graphics. Other than a slightly updated CPU and the addition of composite AV instead of RF video, it was essentially the same as the PC Engine, just with a different color scheme being black and blue instead of white and red. And it had an updated controller with turbo capabilities. The second model was the PC Engine Super Graphics, which was an enhanced PC Engine with upgraded RAM, a second video display controller, and a video display processor to combine the VDCs. It also had an updated CPU. However, the system was quite expensive and was not very popular. Only 5 exclusive games were released for it, and it was soon canceled. The third model was the PC Engine Shuttle. It was a cost-reduced version of the PC Engine targeted towards children, and it was shaped somewhat like a spaceship. In fact, if you look closely, I think Atari took some design cues from this for their Atari Jaguar. This also had AV out, with the main difference being it had no expansion port, so it could not be connected to the CD-ROM add-on. This model was somewhat successful in Japan and was also distributed in South Korea. Also in 1989, NEC released a PC Engine in Europe, starting with France. It was a well-liked console in France, with major retailers selling the console. But by this time, NEC was seeing the TurboGrafx-16 in North America not being successful, and decided to cancel the rest of the European launch. The units that were produced for the UK were North American units converted to PAL. NEC sold this inventory to distributors. Telegames released the console in 1990 in very limited quantities. In 1990, NEC released another new model of the PC Engine, but this time it was to take your games on the go. The PC Engine GT was released in Japan on December 1st, 1990, and then in the United States as the Turbo Express. It was a portable version of the PC Engine with a backlit 2.6-inch LCD screen which at the time was way more advanced than Nintendo's Game Boy. However, because of its high price and its short battery life, it didn't do too well in the market. NEC was way ahead of its time, looking at the success of the Nintendo Switch now. Speaking of Nintendo, the Super Famicom launched in Japan on November of 1990, giving NEC true competition with Nintendo for the first time. By mid-1991, NEC had finally sold the 750,000 units that were produced in 1989 in North America. But on a positive note, worldwide they had sold over 500,000 CD-ROM units. In June, NEC released the CoreGrafx 2. They put the original HU-C6280 CPU back into the unit and changed the case colors again. Nintendo released the SNES in North America in August. In September, NEC releases the PC Engine Duo in Japan. This combines the PC Engine and the CD-ROM all in one unit. Once again, this unit becomes successful in Japan. In December, NEC releases two new products in Japan. The Super CD-ROM, which had an updated BIOS, increased RAM to 256 kilobits, and was able to directly connect to the back of the PC Engine without an adapter. They also released the PC Engine LT, which was a PC Engine in a laptop form factor with an attached screen. It did not have its own battery, so you had to plug it in for power. Not too many of these consoles were made, and they're very rare today. By mid-1992, NEC and Hudson had agreed to transfer management in North America over to a joint venture called Turbo Technologies Incorporated. This was a move to try to remarket the TurboGrafx-16 in North America. In October, they released the Turbo Duo in North America, but by this time, they faced stiff competition with Nintendo and Sega, which were currently dominating the market. The numbers don't lie, and the TurboGrafx-16 and the Turbo Duo just were not successful outside of Japan. In Japan, the PC Engine Duo was selling well. In fact, two updated versions were made, the PC Engine Duo R, released in 1993, and the PC Engine Duo RX in 1994. These consoles essentially had cosmetic changes from the original, but the RX included a new 6-button controller. By the end of 1994, things were definitely taking a toll on NEC. The lucrative gaming market that they had held a lead in the market share in Japan initially had faded long away. Nintendo and Sega were dominating the market, and a newcomer Sony was on the horizon. NEC discontinued the PC Engine and TurboGrafx-16 in 1994 in North America, Japan, and France. And at this point, Turbo Technologies Incorporated discontinued the Turbo Duo in North America as well. While in Japan, the PC Engine Duo lasted another year until 1995. But amazingly, the last licensed game for the PC Engine was Dead on the Brain Part 1 and 2, which was released on June 3, 1999 in the Super CD format. The PC Engine was released in 1987 and the TurboGrafx in 1989. They were completely discontinued by 1995, giving the console an 8-year lifespan and being the first video game console to use the CD-ROM media format.
Introducing TurboGrafx-16, the next generation video game system. It's 4 times faster, so the games are more exciting. There are almost 10 times as many colors, so the arcade quality graphics are even more intense. And you can expand your system with a CD player for CD games with sound effects that are turbocharged. TurboGrafx-16 from NEC, the higher energy video game system.
Now let's take a look at the inside of the PC Engine and TurboGrafx-16. As you guys can see, the PC Engine is a lot more compact, and not all the chips are here on the motherboard. The system RAM is here on the daughter board with the HuCard connector. Now here's the TurboGrafx-16's motherboard. As you can see, it's a lot bigger. Both boards have the same chips, so really what I'm going to do is just show you the TurboGrafx-16 one because it's a lot more spaced out and easier to show. The first chip we'll talk about is the CPU. It's the Hudson Soft HU-C6280. It is an 8-bit CPU derived from the 6502 processor, but with added components. On top of being just a CPU, it also has an interrupt controller, a memory management unit, a timer, an 8-bit I/O port, and a PSG for sound, all built into the same die. The CPU ran at 7.16 MHz. The built-in PSG, or programmable sound generator, is capable of producing 6 sound channels. all of which could be waveform played, with the first two able to do frequency modulation and the last two being able to generate white noise. Waveform playback allowed 32-byte, 5-bit unsigned linear samples to be played. So the next chip we'll talk about is the HU6270 VDC, or Video Display Controller. The VDC creates the display signal of which the background and sprites are created with X and Y scrolling. It's capable of displaying up to 64 sprites on screen with a maximum of 16 sprites per horizontal scan line. It does not have its own internal RAM and uses 64 kilobytes of video RAM on the motherboard. To finish off the custom chips, we have the Hudson Soft HUC6260 Video Color Encoder, or VCE. This chip was not only the video color encoder, it had a built-in sync signal generator, was able to produce up to 512 different colors, create two types of video signals, one of which is analog RGB running at 7 MHz, or a video color difference signal, which could be completed with minimal components to make the composite video out. And that brings us to the RAM chips. So the PC Engine, or TurboGrafx-16, had 8 kilobytes of system RAM and 64 kilobytes of video RAM. Here we have the HSRM2264LM10, an 8 kilobyte SRAM chip. And these are the two HSRM20256LM12s, 32 kilobyte VRAM chips, combined to make 64 kilobytes of video RAM for the system. And the last little chip we have here is a C358C op amp. And what this is used for is just for an audio amp in the audio circuitry. And that about does it for this look inside. Now, as we can see, the two systems are pretty much the same. The TurboGrafx-16 just being bigger because it's been Americanized.
Are you one of us? 16-bit graphics, or one of them, 8-bit? Us. CD game sound. Them, not. Us. Them. Us. Turbo Express Portable. Us. Buy TurboGrafx-16 now and get one of 38 selected games free.
Alright, so we come to the 360 tour of the TurboGrafx-16. So I'm going to go ahead and take it over to my man, Moby, from the T-HUD Popcast. Moby?
Hi guys, so this is Moby with the T-HUD Podcast. Just going to give you a 360-degree tour of the TurboGrafx-16 console here. So to start, this is what the games are like. They're called Hue cards. I think that stands for Hudson Soft, who kind of really champion the system there. These cards do not have memory, so if a game were to involve some sort of save state, it's just by the password system. But this really easily just slots in here, and you turn it on. Now, if the system had a critical flaw, it's here. This is the Achilles heel. So what that is, that's where the antenna cord goes, because the system stock only had a antenna kind of screw-in hookup. The problem is the prong that goes in here, it wears out. So in everyday life, the system's going to move sometimes. You're cleaning, you're putting in games, and over the course of 4 to 6 years, that prong loses its ability to connect with the system. So this slides out the back here. This is your AC adapter port. It works fine. I've never had a problem with the AC adapters for these consoles. It's fine. Whoops, sorry about that. Move that to the side here. So what you're looking at here, this is an expansion slot. This was commonly used for the late stage of the console CD-ROM add-on. Nowadays you can add on different things to this. For example, I want to buy something that clips in here. It's aftermarket that will give component 3-color output. Given the weakness of the antenna cord, I think that's important for me as I continue to game with this thing in the future. So yeah, I will use up that slot. Now another flaw the system has, and I noticed this as a kid when I first opened it out of the box, one controller slot. And many consoles of the 1980s and even the late 70s had more than one controller, so you could play localized multiplayer. The TurboGrafx-16 didn't, and I just think that was a poor design choice, whether it was to save money or what. It definitely put them behind the 8 ball when it came to local multiplayer. Another thing I don't like is these fake vents here. They don't vent anything. I think they were just meant to look cool, but all they end up doing is collecting dust like crazy. And, basically, if I wanted to clean this, I'd have to use a toothbrush or something like that. But, like, why? In my opinion, just leave this smooth and you wouldn't have to deal with this looking filthy all the time. So I purposely did not clean it for the video just to show you that this was a problem. One last little idiosyncrasy on the back here. If you can see, there's these felt pads, a little bit of felt, but they don't really prop up the system. They're only about 1/16 to 1/32 elevated off the bottom of the console. So I just don't know why. I don't know why it has these. And as you can see, there's no venting on the bottom. So here you see the controller. Very typical, if I may say, of late 1980s or 1980s gaming. You've got a D-pad, you've got 2 buttons, you've got select and start, which often only one of them is used as like a pause function. There are 2 turbo slots here that have a couple degrees of turbo. As is typical, I think, with turbo buttons on a controller, they're actually very rarely used. I can't think of a single game I play that requires it, but that's that. And I want you to notice something because it relates to the next accessory. This cord is extremely short. I don't know if it shows up on camera. That cord is no more than 3 feet long. And so, if you give me a moment here, one important accessory that is still quite affordable that I've picked up on eBay, 5 of them, are these controller extenders. So these add about an additional 3 feet, might be 4, but I think it's 3 feet to each controller. You just plug it in on one end, other end goes into the TurboGrafx-16. Now, I just think it's essential. With a 3 feet cord on the controller, it's tough on your eyes. And you're basically pulling a chair or sitting right in front of the TV. Again, last time I checked, this is the most affordable accessory, so take a look into it. Now, as you saw with the system, it only had 1 controller slot. Well, how you upgraded that is with this. It's called the Turbo Tap. Now, what's interesting about this, 5 slots. You probably would have thought 2. Maybe if it was like an amazing system for local multiplayer, you would have thought 4. But it actually has 5. Now, very few games take advantage of this, but Bomberman does. And I can tell you 5-person local Bomberman death matches are amazing. Doesn't matter if you're a retro gamer. I played with people that hate retro games, but Bomberman 5-player is just so much fun. So that does it for accessories. For games, I'll show you games. Now this is Keith Courage. This is going to be the most common game that you're going to find because this was the pack-in game.
It's coming soon to a television set near you. An incredibly advanced video game system. Are you ready for these amazing graphics and vibrant colors? Can you handle the speed and the power? How about the capacity for stereo sound and for 5 players? You decide before September, because it's coming. TurboGrafx-16, the higher energy video game system. Games sold separately.
Alright guys, so we come to the end of the video here where I give my thoughts and opinions about the system itself. And what can I really say about the TurboGrafx-16 and the PC Engine? I mean, it was just a really cool system at the time. I mean, it kind of came out at that time right between like when the Sega Genesis got really popular and the Nintendo, the NES was just out. So it kind of took that niche market where people wanted that 16-bit graphics, you know, and that new style of, you know, sprites that were coming in that were just so awesome looking, and just the speed of the system and everything else like that. So it was a really cool system. Now, unfortunately, when this came out, I didn't know anybody with one. And it wasn't until I think it was like 1996. A buddy of mine that worked with me at Hewlett Packard, uh, he actually had a TurboGrafx-16, and that's how I got my first Atari 7800, because he just gave me the 7800 because he had the TurboGrafx-16. And we sat over there, drank some beers at his apartment, and was playing the TurboGrafx, and I loved the system at the time. In fact, I kind of wanted one, but you know, at the time they were just being, you know, canceled out, and you really couldn't find them anywhere anymore. But yeah, just a really cool system. It's kind of a shame that NEC just didn't continue on in the video game market, because I would have liked to see what they would have done with further, you know, systems. They kind of competed with themselves, kind of like Sega did. They made so many different systems at the same time. Now, the good thing with them, with TurboGrafx-16 and NEC, it was all compatible with one another, basically. So you could take the Hue card and plug it into a TurboGrafx-16. Well, sort of. I mean, they were kind of regionally done up, because this is the cool thing too. Something you guys don't know is that they actually put a region lock in it, or they were going to put a region lock in the TurboGrafx-16. So if you notice the circuit board over on the edge, it had some space for extra ICs. Well, they were going to put like I said, a region lock chip in there, a couple different chips for that purpose. But what they ended up doing was actually swapping the data lines from the PC Engine to the TurboGrafx-16. So if you try to use the Hue cards for either one, they won't work. So that's how they kind of did it. But eventually they came out with adapters and things that people could use, and you know, it kind of took the whole region lock thing away. But anyway, guys, kind of blabbing on here. But just wanted to say, you know, I wanted to thank everybody once again that, watches the videos. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, hit that like, hit that notification bell. And if you want to help support the channel, go ahead and click that super thanks down below. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Y'all have a great one now. Peace out.
Game over, man. It's game over.
Here it comes. Time to move up to the TurboGrafx-16 video game system and turbocharge your life. The TurboGrafx-16 system has the 16-bit performance and power you've been looking for, with sizzling speed, stereo sound, and arcade-quality graphics. And check out this awesome game selection. With Bonk's Adventure, you're the original headbanger, bashing your way through a prehistoric world of deserts, volcanoes, monsters big enough to swallow you up, unless you can bonk them first. More excitement comes your way with The Legendary Axe, 1989's Video Game of the Year. You're Gauguin the Magnificent, out to free the beautiful Flare. Shift universes again, and you're Keith Courage, slashing and jumping your way through 7 levels of peril. And here's the best part of all. Keith Courage is included with every TurboGrafx-16 system you buy. Experience a wild new world in Dragon's Curse. Grip the wheel and drive like never before in the arcade smash Final Lap Twin. In Bloody Wolf, you'll explore 8 stages of danger and win a secret bonus, just like in the arcade hit. Or you can experience your worst horror flick nightmares in the frightening arcade hit Splatterhouse, coming soon. Want more arcade thrills? Try an exciting round of clacks or sidearms. Plenty of actions headed your way in JJ and Jeff, so keep your eyes open and keep on kicking. Explore a seemingly endless maze and save all of China in Chu-Man Fu. Or get amazing pinball action in Devil's Crush, the fast-paced sequel to 1989's best simulation game, Alien Crush. You can also try Vigilante or China Warrior. Get out your stinging shooter and get ready to take on 4 different insect forms in Cybercore. Or play Psychosis, another thrilling test of your shooting skills. And also keep your aim sharp for blazing lasers, R-Type, Dragon Spirit, Galaga 90, Pac-Land, and Fantasy Zone. Double roleplay excitement is yours when you play Double Dungeons with split-screen viewpoint for multiple player action. Or live the award-winning adventure of Dungeon Explorer. Or delve deep into the dungeon-ridden labyrinth of Newtopia. Test your strategic skills while fighting a war on the moon in Military Madness. You can try your luck at blackjack, poker, slot machines, and more in King of Casino. Or have a ball with Time Ball. Ready, set, spike, score! All the sights, sounds, and action of the real game are yours in Super Volleyball. Feel the gut-level impact of TV sports football, a pro-style game complete with play-by-play. Taking it to the hoop plants you center court, where being quick, jumping high, and shooting straight are all that counts. You'll experience real game pressure and 3D effects with world-class baseball. Or try your backhand with up to 4 players in an exciting round of World Court Tennis. It's the game selection of a lifetime, and it's yours only with the TurboGrafx-16 Entertainment Super System. And now you can push the limits of video gaming technology to vast new levels with TurboGrafx-CD. You'll kick, spin, and karate chop your way through an incredible CD showdown when you play Fighting Street. ECD adds extra power and punch to your role-playing adventures. And Valis 2 CD lets you wield a magic sword against demonic forces. And since TurboGrafx-CD is a fully equipped CD player, you can also play your favorite audio